Welcome back into another edition of Prime Sports World. Happy Tuesday, everyone. Welcome into Prime Sports World. I'm, of course, your host, David On Point. Helping right there is my co-host, Mr. TJ Hopkins. And on today's episode of the Prime, we're going to be talking about the New York Jets as we are in the second half of our season preview specials. We're talking about every single team, predicting the record, talking about their offseason, just talking about their season in general. This is the New York Jets. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast as we have previewed every team from the north on both sides and from the south on both sides now. And now we're into the east and the west. But talking about the Jets, TJ, a lot of change for the Jets, especially at the quarterback position. Zach Wilson still on the team, but no longer the starter. Aaron Rodgers, now the new sheriff in town, quote unquote. Kind of a lot to talk about when it comes to the New York Jets. A team that probably had a better quarterback play last season would have been a playoff team.
I know would have been. They are a playoff team with better quarterback play.
I mean, they lost the game. They lost the game last year where they didn't give up a single touchdown. That's tough.
Yeah, and in the last few seconds.
Yeah, and they were 7-3 at one point last season, and then basically didn't win another game the rest of the season, rest of the way through. I think things will definitely be good with Aaron Rodgers at the helm. Let's talk about it. Moving on, let's talk about their storylines. First major storyline. Let's talk about Aaron Rodgers. Now the quarterback of the New York Jets, as they traded for him in the offseason. Here's the trade. Aaron Rodgers obviously went to the Jets along with the 2023 first-round pick, number 15, and then they got a fifth-round pick to the Jets. And in return, New York sent the 13th pick, a 2023 second-round pick, which was 42 overall, a 2023 sixth-round pick, which is number 207, and a conditional second-round pick that can become a first if Aaron Rodgers plays 65% of the plays this season, which I imagine he will. So I imagine Green Bay is going to get another first-round pick out of this, unless things just go horribly, horribly wrong for Aaron Rodgers while he's in New York, and he may not play 65% of the snaps. But let's just talk about expectations. Right. Before we actually talk about the offensive line, but this is a team that has some nice players on the skill position. I mean, Mecole Hardman, Robert Lazard came over, Garrett Wilson. They got Breece Hall coming off of his torn ACL. Michael Carter still a good football player. Zovan Knight played a little bit last season, was productive at the running back position for this team. What are we expecting out of Aaron Rodgers as a member of the New York Jets and this offense?
It's Super Bowl or bust. Like when you get that guy, that caliber of a guy, it's Super Bowl or bust. Like it's all we've been hearing is what you said at the beginning. Better quarterback play, they're a Super Bowl team, they're a playoff team. Well, they got the better quarterback. The better quarterback play is coming. So I just need them to, keep that same energy and also understand that this is for the other parts. This is for the Garrett Wilsons and everybody like Alan Lazard and them. Like they know what it is. Like, hey, if we come up short, they're not gonna blame him.
No, the blame will be squarely on the shoulders of the others. Garrett Wilson, Alan Lazard, Mecole Hardman, Tyler Conklin, CJ Uzoma, Corey Davis, who's still on the Randall Cobb. I mean, who's no stranger to getting the brunt of this blame.
Yeah, like they blame, like how it is. Like they come up short, they ain't gonna blame him. Like they gonna blame everybody else because they gonna look at it like, all right, we did all of this, and it's like it could go the other way. Like again, New York media is relentless. They are gonna come after him. They are not gonna.
Yeah, I don't imagine Aaron Rodgers will get away with doing these passive aggressive press conferences and stuff like that in New York, like the way he got away with it in Green Bay.
Exactly.
Like not practicing with your teammates, going out in the desert and doing whatever Aaron Rodgers does in the desert. Like I don't believe that'll fly in New York. Hold on one second.
Go ahead.
What are you doing? Did you not?
And his cat is giving him the flux right now. But yeah, it's
all right. Sorry, go ahead.
No, it's what it is. I know they feel some type of way about being on Hard Knocks. They're on Hard Knocks this year. They didn't want it. I know Robert Saleh said he didn't want it. I don't get it. Like it's just
Yeah, and they're also extremely restricting the access that HBO is going to get, unlike any other team that's been on Hard Knocks before.
See, that's the issue. Like
I
if
gotta be
you're
honest
worried
with you.
about it,
I gotta be honest with you. They should just straight cancel Hard Knocks. I just don't think it's value. Like last season's episode, last season was not all that good.
like who was it? Detroit was Detroit
Yeah,
last
no,
year.
I think no. Detroit was 2 years ago. Hold on,
Because like they got two now. They got the one
I
they
know the
do.
midseason one.
And they got the
Was it
midseason one.
was it Denver? Oh,
No,
it was Detroit last season.
I think it was Arizona
Yeah, Arizona. That's correct. As they were
in the
falling apart.
midseason.
Yeah.
And if you're worried about Hard Knocks and the cameras, and if you label that as a distraction, that says more about you and your franchise than it does about Hard Knocks, because they're only there for what, a month, maybe two,
Yeah.
to
I mean, not
to
it's
film
nothing.
this. It's nothing. So like, if you're worried about that being a distraction, that says a lot about how you run things and how you handle things. Yeah. So I would focus. I wouldn't even just focus on that. Like they're just sit the guys down. They're coming. They're gonna
And
be here
not to mention, it's not like there are not cameras at your practice, anyways.
anyway.
Like media outlets are covering your practice. Like I know there are some of it that's close to practice, but the fact that like you're worried about this, man, Justin Herbert just got paid a couple hours ago too. Oh, wow, I did not.
Yes, he did.
Wow, okay, I didn't see that coming. But yeah, I think talking about back to the Jets and back to Aaron Rodgers, like having a mediocre season next season, like 3,600 yards, passing like 12 interceptions, most interceptions he's thrown since 2010. That's just not going to fly in New York. Like he only threw 26 touchdowns, the least amount he's thrown since 2018. I just think that's not going to be acceptable here as we watch the New York Jets. Like they're going to have to go as Aaron Rodgers carries them, and we'll talk about the next topic here in a second. But like there's the skill positions, like the skill position players on this team are pretty solid.
Yeah, they are. Like you've been chasing Joe Namath since '67. Like you've been chasing that ghost, right? And if he wins the Super Bowl with the New York Jets, he automatically surpasses Joe Namath in Jets lore. And like he becomes the best quarterback in Jets history, all that good stuff.
Well, I mean, I don't think it would take that much for him to be the best quarterback in Jets history. Let's not pretend like Joe Namath had like these amazing gaudy numbers. Like he kind of sucked outside of that Super Bowl guarantee.
I understand that, but at the same time, that's all they got. You feel me? Like that's literally all they got.
So Lamar Jackson got to be the highest paid quarterback for like less than a month.
That's how it goes. Like that's how it goes. But the issue isn't he's the amount of time he was the highest paid quarterback. The issue is there was no argument about giving Justin Herbert his money.
Yep, 100%. Back to Aaron. We'll talk about the Chargers when we get to their show. I didn't realize that was a thing. I hadn't been checking my news filter, so I got a little distracted there on that story broke. But yeah, I mean, Aaron Rodgers. This is a skill position. They got some pretty solid players on the outside. You got a pretty good running game with Michael Carter and Breece Hall. Expecting him to be back. Like this is just like Aaron Rodgers. Like this is kind of what you wanted. You want to be in a big market. You want to be in a team that has quote unquote weapons that you didn't have in Green Bay. Like you have them now. So there's not going to be any excuses out of the Aaron Rodgers camp either. You can no longer say like, "Hey, this team didn't do this, did that." Like the Jets have kind of bent over backwards to put you in a good situation, and on top of that, bring in all your friends, like all your buddies. Like Adrian Amos is on this team. You got Al Lazar, your number one wide receiver from the year before. You got Randall Cobb, who's been your best friend, I guess. Like
best friends.
Yeah, like the Bears killer, basically since you got into the NFL. Like. All right, so it's time, Aaron Rodgers. Let's see what you got at quarterback. My expectations for him as season when to talk about, expect him to throw for over 4,000 yards. I think 4,500 is not unrealistic, even though he's never done that in his career. The most passing yards he ever had was 4,400 yards in 2018 season where he went 25-2. I think he won the MVP that year, but I could be wrong. I expect him to throw over 40 touchdowns, and I expect him to have his picks under 7.
That sounds reasonable. Like it does.
From there, let's talk about the second storyline when it comes to the New York Jets. This offensive line wasn't all that good of a unit last season. Mekhi Becton cannot stay healthy. Laken Tomlinson, Connor McGovern, and Elijah Vera Tucker are pretty solid pieces there in the middle. And then they got another question over there, Dwayne Brown, who they dusted off retirement last season. Still on this team, unless he may have retired, but I don't think so.
No, he's still there.
The tackle positions on both sides are really where the question marks start. And Mekhi Becton, can he stay healthy? Dwayne Brown, can you feed off Father Time? I think he's pushing 40.
If he isn't 40 already.
He's only 37. He'll be 40 next. He'll be 38 next month.
Okay. Can the offensive line? Oh, I mean, yeah. Until they find a front that works consistently. Yeah, like you said it. Mekhi Becton hasn't stayed healthy. Dwayne Brown is on the wrong side of the Father Time battle. Right? Father Time's undefeated. We say that all the time. Father Time is undefeated. Elijah Vera Tucker is coming off injury. Right? So
how he is.
So
he was incredibly good before he got hurt last season, and it kind of coincided with the fall apart of the New York Jets last season. If Elijah Vera Tucker gets hurt, the Jets fall apart.
Like the last thing you need, if you're Aaron Rodgers, is a faulty offensive line. Right? You're not young anymore. You're not the spring chicken. Your mobility isn't what it used to be. So if protection breaks down for Aaron Rodgers, expect the Tom Brady thing. Like, hey, just go down. Don't fight.
Without doubt. He played one game. He played one game in 2021. It doesn't look like he played a single game last season.
Yeah, that's tough.
It's tough. I mean, this guy was a top 10 pick when they drafted him, expecting him to be 11th pick overall in 2020 when the Jets took him. A mammoth human being, 6'7", 363 pounds. He performed out of his mind at the combine. He just hasn't been able to be healthy to really put it all together. And the play that he got injured last year or 2 years ago was on Zach Wilson's first touchdown pass. I guess it's a good thing he didn't work out, because every time you're going to watch Zach Wilson's first touchdown ever as a pro, you're also going to see Mekhi Becton have a nasty injury during that play that basically cost him 2 years.
That was kind of the ish. That was kind of the worry with Mekhi Becton. Like, we saw this, like you said, we saw this mammoth human being in Mekhi Becton, and it's like, most left tackles aren't that big. Like, Mekhi Becton coming into the league was damn near 400. Like, he was pretty close to it.
Yeah.
And it's like, that was the worry. Like, hey, if he gets hurt, what's the timetable? Like, especially depending on the severity of the injury. And like you said, like he had an injury where it's cost him basically 2 years of his career.
Yep.
It is what it. I mean, I hate to sound like unsympathetic, but hey, it is what it is. That's the nature of the game. And as we know, this at the same time, it's a game, it's a business. These teams can be ruthless, and they not finna wait for him. Like, if they got to move off him, they will in a heartbeat.
100%. I think they're already making those plans. Like, they dress. I think if they hadn't had to flip picks with the Green Bay Packers in this year's draft, I think they would have addressed it. And I think they would have taken, Broderick Jones or somebody at the offensive tackle position to basically replace Mekhi Becton. They're basically hoping that he can stay healthy, because their backup in Billy Turner is an okay football player, but he's kind of been a journeyman, and we kind of know what Billy Turner is at this point. He's nothing really special. He's a serviceable left tackle in the NFL.
And at the same time, like you said, and you said it, like you want guys for the future, not with the past. And it sucks because like you were hoping Mekhi Becton would be that. You were hoping Mekhi Becton and Zach Wilson would be that linchpin duo for the next 12, right, decade plus. I don't know why they picked Zach Wilson over Justin Fields, but that's a conversation for another day. Uh,
100% a conversation for another day. But I think if there is something like we're talking about this offense, I think when there is something that gives you a little bit of pause, it's for sure the offensive line. It's sure these two tackles, Kai Becton and Dwayne Brown. Like, can Dwayne Brown continue to defy father time, and can Kai Becton stay healthy? And if there's a scenario where the Jets kind of don't meet expectations, it's probably going to be because of this offensive line and not playing up to snuff when it comes to the New
hmm
York Jets.
Yeah.
Moving on from the offense, let's talk about their defense a little bit. A team the unit that basically carried them last season. They paid Quentin Williams, made him the highest paid defensive tackle in the NFL in the history of the league. Sauce Gardner coming into season 2. DJ Reed was a really low key, underrated free agent signing in the season before. Really good at the cornerback position. They still have Jordan Whitehead at safety. Got Adrian Amos in free agency. CJ Mosley still here. Carl Lawson still here. Quentin Jefferson, they signed in free agency. They got Jermaine Johnson, who was a first-round pick last season. Will McDonald, another guy who was a first-round pick this most recent draft. We'll talk about him in a couple of minutes. But how good can this defense be? And can you see it being a top 5 unit?
Can I see them being the top 5 unit? Yeah, absolutely. Now, obviously, this what's his name, Sauce Gardner, is going to gain a lot of attention. You and it's warranted, right? Like you talk a lot, you back it up, you become a target, right? Some of his coverage last year, like for the most part, for the most part, it was great. Like he was real good for a rookie. But there were certain plays against certain teams where it's like, hey, that could have been PI if the right ref see it. That's PI. So he has to. I think for him to be so young, he's already gone. He's already danced that fine line of what I can get away with versus just what's blatant PI. I
I
think
mean, this Jets team finished 4th in points last season. They finished in 4th in yards allowed last season. They were the 3rd best passing game defense in the NFL. A little bit worse in rushing. I think they're bottom. They're not in the top 10 even. And when it comes to rushing defense, at about I think what is this number 15, halfway. They're in the middle of the pack when it comes to the rushing defense. But everything else, they're in the top 5.
yeah, Quentin Williams is a monster. Like he became the first, like he became their first draft pick to sign a second contract with them, and God knows how long. Like it's been a long time since a player they drafted signed another contract with them. Like that's how bad it's been with the Jets. Like that's how bad it's been. Like he became their first player to sign a second contract with them, and I don't know how long.
Well,
And
one of the things I think they really need to work on if this defense is going to take another step is creating more turnovers. Bottom 5 in the NFL last season in creating turnovers. Only 16 created turnovers, 12 interceptions, and only 4 fumbles. So this is a team that if they really want to sustain like whatever we're talking about point differential, their defense needs to create more easy opportunities for their offense. -7 turnover differential last season.
yeah,
4th
that means
worst in the NFL.
they turned the ball over more than they got turnovers. Can they be top? Yeah, they can be really good. Like you said, like they can be, especially like so. Like now you got the guy at quarterback. Aaron Rodgers don't turn the ball over
Nope.
at all. Like rarely, right? You're more likely to strip Aaron Rodgers for a fumble than he is to throw it to the other team, and that's if you get to him,
Yeah, I
that's if he
mean,
doesn't throw the ball away.
not so much last season. He had some very Aaron Rodgers like plays last season where he was just throwing it over the middle, making not Aaron Rodgers like decisions.
Yeah,
But
especially
yeah,
that last game against the Lions, it was just like, yo, well, that was kind of like the writings on the wall. It's like, I'm
yeah,
out of here.
yeah. But I think when you talk about the Jets and talk about their defense, yeah, I think the expectation should be a top 5. Anything less than that would be considered a disappointment, given the skill positions that they have at the defensive side of the football. Um, they have to be considered top 10 unit for sure, top 5 even potentially. If they can just get a little more pressure under the quarterback that they did last season, pretty low in terms of sacks. And if they can continue to, Sauce Gardner takes another step forward, yeah, this is a defense that could potentially even be the best defense in the NFL next season.
Uh, um, I got a little cousin who says Sauce Gardner is his favorite corner, and I'm like, yo, that's fine, but I'm like, yo, you know my rule. Do it again.
Gotta do it again, baby.
You gotta do it again, and you gotta do it again, and again, and again, and again, and again. Like that's what makes the greats great. You want to go down as one of the best. The best just don't have. We have a good year, then a not so good year, then a bad year, then a good year again. Then like no, it's there. They are consistently good, great, 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 good. Like yeah, that's what it is. So hey, that's the standard he set for himself.
Moving on from their storylines, let's talk a little bit about their draft. Obviously, the pick swap with the Green Bay Packers. They took Will McDonald the fourth, the edge rusher out of Iowa State. In round 2, they took Joe Tippmann, center out of Wisconsin. I actually met him because he's from Fort Wayne. I don't remember which high school he went to in Fort Wayne, but he stopped in our newsroom before the draft. He is a mammoth human being, center out of Wisconsin. Could not have been nicer, though. Round 4, they took Carter Warren, offensive tackle out of Pittsburgh. They took a running back out of Pittsburgh. I'm not really sure how to pronounce that last name, so I'm not going to try. Zaire Barnes, left tackle out of Western Michigan. Mac represent, baby. And then Bernard Converse, defensive back out of LSU. And then Zach Kuntz, tight end out of Old Dominion. But I think a lot of the conversation is going to come with this first round pick, taking Will McDonald the fourth, seen as a reach where they took him. I think they could have gotten him later, and I still think that they needed to address their offensive line. But with a lot of the major offensive line prospects being off the board, I don't think you could necessarily reach for an offensive lineman here. I don't personally think that this was the best pick they could have made, especially since last season they took a shot on, they already had a deep position. Carl Lawson's on this team, John Franklin Myers, Jeremy Johnson, Bryce Huff. Like it wasn't. I don't get it. Like it doesn't make a lot of sense.
They went depth. They went depth moves at 15th overall. Like you said, because like some of those guys are still on the roster, and if one thing we've learned is you can never have too much of the premier positions in this league. So, in my opinion, you can never have too many linemen. You can never have too many D linemen. You can never have too many receivers. You can never have too many edge rushers. So
yeah, I mean, he's 6'4", 245 pounds. He had 33 sacks between 2019 and 2022, second only to who, TJ, in that time frame?
Gotta be Will Anderson.
You got it. Let's go.
Just got a baseball trade deadline. It's just nothing important. Just come on.
Anyways, but yeah, I think he's going to be a closer, but this is a position where you had depth already. I would have preferred that they taken an offensive line to address that need, or even another wide receiver to foister up that part of the league. I don't know. It's going to be one of those like if it doesn't end up working out, it's going to be one of those decisions where you're going to have to shake your head a little bit, especially since I don't think the Jets necessarily had to make this trade like with this pick swap involved. If I was the Jets, I would have held firm and been like, yeah, we're just going to trade you that conditional pick next year, and we're not flipping a pick with you. It's because New England basically screwed them over completely by trading with the Patriots or by trading with the Steelers.
At that point in time, Green Bay had all the leverage. They was like, hey, we have the guy you want.
Yeah, but I think you're like Aaron Rodgers isn't returning to this team. Like the leverage, neither team I think had leverage. Like in my opinion, like they were both kind of like he's not going anywhere else. He's not being traded anywhere else. Like we're not competing against anyone else for his services. He said he wants to go to the Jets. We don't like. I'm not flipping picks with you. I don't know. It's just one of those interesting debates where like if I was the Jets, I wouldn't have included that pick swap because. They should have taken a Broderick Jones if he had still been there at 13. But he wasn't available.
Then you probably don't get Aaron Rodgers if you don't include that pick swap. That's just me.
I think they could have still gotten it done. Eventually would have happened. Joe Tippmann is a mammoth human being. He's 6'6", playing center. He can realistically play anywhere on the offensive line. And he basically plays from offensive line U in Wisconsin. They basically churn out offensive linemen every year. This is a guy. He played for Bishop Dwenger High School in Fort Wayne, which is one of the schools that I film regularly when I do Highlight Zone for Wayne TD here in Fort Wayne.
Nice. Yeah,
But he only allowed 5
Joe Tillman.
pressures in 589 pass blocks over 2 seasons. 5.
And we're not finna act like Wisconsin has been, you know, this powerhouse. Like they've been decent, but like when you say, "Hey, who's gonna win the Big Ten?" Wisconsin's never a pick. Like
It's not anymore. I mean, a couple years ago for sure. Like when they had, Jonathan Taylor.
and that's coming up on what, 6 years
10
now.
years. Yeah.
So and even then it was like, oh, we stopped Jonathan Taylor, we win.
Yeah.
Like even then, that was like, okay, yeah, just slow this guy down and we'll be good.
Yeah, but Joe Tippmann's a good value pick. He can play all over the offensive line. He probably plays tackle in the NFL. He's a little bit too tall to play center at 6'6".
No, that's fine actually.
It's unusual for a center to be that tall.
It worked in college.
It did work in college, that's true. But not everything that works in college works in the NFL.
I doubt if they can play him at either guard spot along with center, that's a win. So it is what it is. They went back to back Pitt players in 4th and 5th round. Just noticed that.
Yeah, so they took an offensive tackle, 4-year starter out of Pitt. It does have some technique issues. Also committed 11 penalties in the last 15 games as a college football player, 8 of those being false starts. And then he missed the last 9 games with a meniscus injury. He says the injury is 100%. We'll end up seeing. He worked out for the Jets in their local pro day. I don't know. I don't really know what to make. I don't really have a lot of tape to even watch on Carter Warner. The running back out of Pitt, though, 4.40 in the 40-yard dash. 5'10", 216 pounds. Can be just a change of pace gadget running back. We'll see if he ends up actually seeing the field and being like anything they actually use.
That could be a return guy, kick return, punt return.
Yeah.
Spell running back in case some of those guys get hurt again. You already know.
He was
again,
1,400 rushing yards, 6 and 20 touchdowns in 2022. He also broke Tony Dorsett's school record for 320 yards rushing in a game against Virginia Tech last season.
Virginia Tech.
But yeah, then they take Zaire Barnes, linebacker, pretty thin position for the New York Jets. So this adds some depth there. He's 6'1", 233 pounds, 4.54 in the 40-yard dash. Had 93 tackles in college and 28 career starts, 4.5 sacks for loss and 1 sack.
That's a coverage guy. I don't know who he covered.
He wasn't even invited to the combine. He was 20. He'll be 24 when the season starts.
Damn.
He's a special teamer probably.
Zaire Barnes, I mean. Yeah.
Probably a special teamer. And then the kid from LSU at the defensive back, 6'1", 196 pounds, 4.39 in the 40, 42-inch vert. He also will be 23 years old by the time the season starts. Probably another special teamer's backup contributor.
Yeah. Again, you can never have too many. That's another position you can never have too many of. You can never have too many DBs. I'm fairly positive Bernard Converse is a good player. It's just you're on when you go to a school like LSU, it's like I say it all the time. Like, how do you make yourself stand out from the others?
Well, he originally started Oklahoma State, and then he actually was a safety at Oklahoma State and then he transferred to LSU, and then he converted back to LSU. He was all Big 12 at corner in 2021, though. So And then their final pick, Zach Kuntz, 6'7". He also ran the 40-yard dash at 4.55 at 6'7". He's just an absolute dice roll. Like, he's either going to be excellent or terrible. There's literally no in between, probably.
It's ODU. Old Dominion is relatively new to the FBS universe. I think this year will be 2024 will be their 10-year anniversary of joining the FBS. Like, they've only been in the FBS for 2 years.
So yeah, he was originally at Penn State, and then he transferred ODU in 2021. Had his best season there, 73 catches, 692 yards, and 5 touchdowns. As a whole, I think their draft is. I'm going to give it a solid B. I just don't get the Will McDonald draft pick in the first round, but I think the rest of their draft they actually did a pretty solid job.
So like you're fine with everything else. You just didn't like going Will McDonald at 15.
Yeah.
Wish I could go back and see like who was still on the board at 15 for them.
Hold on. All right, so at 15, they could have taken another wide receiver, as not a single wide receiver had been taken at that point. Yeah, so not a single wide receiver had been taken at that point. If they really wanted to get an inside linebacker, Jack Campbell was still on the board. Antoine Harrison was still there. Miles Murphy to give them another edge rushing presence, along with Brian Breesy, Nolan Smith. There are a lot of guys that could have taken. Basically, all of the wide receivers are still available. I mean, they could have boistered offensive linemen there. There are a lot of things they could have done instead of taking Will McDonald the fourth. And that pick alone is going to drag down this grade a little bit.
Well, I can see why they didn't go receiver like at all. Like again, you got Garrett Wilson, you got Corey Davis, you signed guys in free agency. So in their mind,
they didn't sign those guys until after the draft.
Doesn't matter. They did it. They didn't. They obviously didn't feel the need to go receiver in the draft.
Yeah, sure.
They obviously like conversations had to be had with the guys they signed because the minute free agency opened up.
Elizalde and Raquel Hartman and Randall Cobb all signed pretty late in the process. Like it wasn't like they weren't day one signings. Same thing with Adrian Amos.
No, they got to make it look good.
Get out of here. But yeah, I'll give them a solid B- on their draft.
They got to make it look like, oh, we're talking to. I'm going to weigh my options, knowing good and damn well, hey, I'm going to the Jets. I'm signing with the Jets.
So if you had to grade their draft before we move on to free agency,
B-, be nice.
That's what I got them at too. From there, let's talk about their free agency / roster shakeup. Obviously, the major additions: Aaron Rodgers, Alan Lazar, Wes Schweister, who is a guard, gives them some depth at offensive line. Randall Cobb, Adrian Amos is the trifecta of Green Bay Packers. All come with Aaron Rodgers. And then their departures: Nate Herbrig, Sheldon Rankins, and Nathan Shepard. None of those guys you really even care about all that much. I think the Jets, specifically, they got Aaron Rodgers and they gave some guys that like he's comfortable with. I think they actually did a pretty good job when it comes to roster shakeup. I'm surprised that Zach Wilson's still on this roster, but I guess he has no value, so you can't really trade him for anything. But I would have thought he would be on the move somewhere else.
Well, somewhere else, like where?
But I mean, that's the question, right? Where I don't have an answer to that question. Also, George Font, who's been a mediocre right tackle, also has not been re-signed. Quan Alexander, who hasn't been the same player since he tore his Achilles tendon. How old do you think Quan Alexander is, by the way?
33.
He's 28, too? He's younger than you. I thought Quan Alexander was a lot older than that. It feels like Quan Alexander's been in the NFL for like a really long time. Like, right?
Wow. That's shocking.
LaMarcus Joyner, also another player who hasn't re-signed with any team in the NFL. They did add Billy Turner, who I talked about a little bit in this earlier when we were talking about stuff. But yeah, I think as a whole, I mean, they lost Braxton Berrios, but when you add what they add already, I don't think that matters as much. Mike White is no longer on this team either, so we don't have to talk about him as much anymore.
Nah. That was talked about enough during the season where the guys just responded and it was blatantly in Zach Wilson's face they responded better to Mike White in the huddle than they ever did with you. And I think obviously if you're Robert Saleh, you got to go back to Zach Wilson. I'm talking about last week. You have to go back to him because this was your first overall pick. It's a terrible look for you and your GM if you we're not gonna give you the reins no more. We're gonna give it to Mike White, I don't even know if Mike White was drafted. Like I really don't.
I don't think so. No, I don't. I don't think he was, or he was like a 7th-round pick. But yeah, I think given the fact that you brought Aaron Rodgers, I like what they did in free agency. I think they did a better job in free agency than they did in the draft.
Oh, definitely, 100%. Again, so like you brought guys in to make this process easier for Aaron Rodgers, like guys he's comfortable with, guys that know his mannerisms, guys that know what he's about, right? Like again, Alan Lazard, Randall Cobb, they've especially Randall Cobb. Randall Cobb and Aaron Rodgers basically grew up in the NFL together.
Yep.
Like I'm pretty sure they're like a year or two apart in terms of when they were drafted. No, not when they were drafted, but like when they started playing together. Because
I would guess that as well. Randall Cobb was 32. He started playing meaningful minutes for the Green Bay Packers in 2011.
right, okay, so right around the same time with Aaron Rodgers, because Aaron Rodgers, you got to keep in mind, he sat for 3 years.
Yeah.
So yeah, so right around they started playing together right around the same time. So I was right,
as you usually are. But yeah, I think when you talk about their free agency, I know this segment isn't going to be as long as their draft segment. I think this is like a solid A.
Oh yeah.
Aaron Rodgers started playing for Green Bay at the quarterback position in 2008. So he played his first 3 seasons in the NFL without Randall Cobb. And then as he got Randall Cobb, his passing yards went up by 700 yards in the season that they added Randall Cobb.
Because Randall Cobb, he provided an intermediary guy like that, basically a chain mover. Like, hey, we need a first down.
He was a perfect complement to Jordy Nelson and Greg Jennings, who they already had on the roster.
Yep.
And James Jones.
Jones.
So let's get into the schedule, my friend. Let's see how things are going to shake out for the Aaron Rodgers-led New York Jets. First game of the year is a real test. The Buffalo Bills, who have Super Bowl aspirations as well. We'll get to them in a later episode of The Prime. But Buffalo coming into East Rutherford, New Jersey. This game is on Monday Night Football prime time as Josh Allen and Aaron Rodgers go head-to-head for the first time as divisional rivals.
As divisional? Yeah. I think I got the just to start. I think I got the Jets going. I'm gonna go 12-5. I think this is one of the 5. First game against Buffalo.
Let me see. Hold on. Let me see what the scores. Yeah, I have them. Yeah, I have them for sure losing this game as well. Looking at their schedule. Hold on, let me see. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Maybe 6. I see a couple defenses that could give them hell, but their defense could also give the opposing team some hell.
I'll agree with you on that. I think 11-6 is realistic when it comes to New York Jets. I look at their record. I look at the teams they play. I think that the open night against Buffalo, I think they get swept by Buffalo. I think Buffalo is still, even with Aaron Rodgers at the helm of this New York Jets team, I think Buffalo is still a better football team on paper. I also have them losing to Dallas in Dallas. I just think that Dallas is a tough place to play. And Aaron Rodgers, even though he does seem to have Dallas's number, this is not the same Dallas Cowboys team. I think the Philadelphia Eagles come into East Rutherford, New Jersey, and I think they get a victory. Boston Scott probably has 3 touchdowns in that game as he loves playing in East Rutherford, New Jersey. And then I have them losing. I have them losing the other game to Buffalo. I have them also losing the Kansas City game as a Kansas City Chiefs game, as they're now in conference rivals. Aaron Rodgers and Patrick Mahomes. I have them.
Yeah, this will also. Well. I think that'll also be the first time they play against each other. Like they go head to head, because like the last time, I think the last time the Packers and the Chiefs played, Jordan Love got the start.
That's true. And I wasn't sure if they met one other time prior to this, because the Kansas City Chiefs have been winning the division every year, and like usually when you get to play one division rival from the AFC, at least in the new 17-game schedule. But yeah, I think 11-6, 12-5 is pretty realistic for what I expect out of the New York Jets. I expect them to sweep New England. I also expect them to sweep Miami. I think there is a scenario where maybe they get beat one time by Miami, but with the unsureness there at the quarterback position for the Miami Dolphins with Tua's health. I also think New England is probably going to be one of the worst teams in the NFL this season. I don't think Mac Jones is going to be the answer. We'll talk about him a little bit more on Thursday. But the rest of the games, I mean, they beat Denver in Denver. They go to the Jets or to the Giants. They beat them. I think they beat the Chargers home. They beat the Las Vegas Raiders. They beat the Falcons. They beat the Houston Texans. They beat the Commanders. They beat the Miami, and they beat Cleveland and New England to wrap up the season. And I have them at 11-6 for the Jets.
Yeah, they lose to Buffalo. They beat Dallas. I just don't like what I just Mike McCarthy's calling plays now. It's just no. There's a reason why you were out of the league for a minute, dude. Like it
was really only like 1 year or 2 years.
You doesn't matter. You are like good guy. Hey, good play callers don't like they don't miss time at all. You lose to the Chiefs. Yeah, you sweep New England. That's 2 wins right there. You sweep New England. You lose to the Chiefs. You beat Denver. You lose to the Eagles. You beat the Giants. I can see the Chargers beating you because, again, bad offensive line, meet good defensive front. They can make that life a living hell. Only difference is it's the flip side. They can make Justin Herbert's life a living hell, and we'll get to the Chargers when we do that. So I'm leaning Chargers, but I'm 50-50 on that one. You beat the Raiders. You got the Bills sweeping them, you said?
Yeah. You
don't see a split?
No.
At all?
No chance. Obviously I could be wrong, but I just think Buffalo is a better team on paper than this Jets team, especially with the question of the offensive line. We'll get to the Buffalo Bills question marks in a later episode, but I got Buffalo sweeping them, and I have them sweeping Miami. I know I've been a homer for Atlanta, but I think they beat Atlanta.
Yeah, they demolished Atlanta. I'm sorry. No, I'm serious. Like all the moves that Atlanta has made, give you credit.
The second you started talking smack about Atlanta, you started breaking up.
You got. Can you hear me now?
Yeah, I got you. But it's just funny when you talk smack about the Atlanta Falcons, the internet starts going out. So maybe you shouldn't be doing that.
I mean, hey, they're the ones that got to live with Desmond Ridder or Taylor Heineke throwing them passes. So
hey, Taylor 6-pack of Heineke.
Whatever. I'm not even. Why is Houston on the schedule? Washington.
They were the worst team in the AFC South, so they play a worst place record.
Washington, yeah, that's a win. Sam Howell, really. That Cleveland matchup is interesting. I can see that going either way, especially if Deshaun Watson returns to form.
Yeah, I waffled a little bit on that game as well, especially since that game is in Cleveland in the dog pound over there. I imagine that'll be potentially for like a wild card spot or seedings in the wild card. That game right there in Cleveland.
Oh yeah, that game's gonna have playoff ramifications. No, like that game's gonna have playoff ramifications. Both Dolphins games are gonna have playoff ramifications because we're starting to get to that point in the season. Like that first Dolphins game, it's like that's when you see teams start to like really pay attention to. All right, this is where we are. This is what we need to do, and you start paying attention to what everybody else is doing. I could wholeheartedly see a split with Buffalo. I'm not like that with you. Like, I think it goes if they split with Buffalo, they win game 1, then they lose the game in Buffalo.
I don't know. I just think that Buffalo's going to be. That's my opinion. I think if Buffalo wins both those games, I can see a scenario where they get beat, where they lose one of these games to Miami, on the flip side of this. But I'm not going to predict that. But yeah, 11-6. That's how I have the Jets when the season's all said and done. I have them not winning the division, but they have them for sure as a wild card. I still think Buffalo wins the division. I think we'll get to them when we talk about their particular episode, which is probably going to be next week at some point. But I think the Jets at 11-6. If you finish the season with 11-6, I think you got to take that as a victory for the New York Jets as they try to right the ship and find the quarterback of the future, who's probably just the quarterback of right now for them.
Well, again, and Aaron Rodgers has already said that a one season for the Jets would be a disservice. So you know for a fact you have Aaron Rodgers right now for at least 2 seasons, this season and next year. Right now, we already know
I literally do not trust anything.
That's what I'm saying. That's what I'm saying. So like right now, you have him for 2 seasons, but we know he like the flake. Like he swing back and forth in the air like a wind chime. Like, hey, one day he with you, the next day I got decisions, I got choices. Like, bro, what? Like, and like you said to your point, the New York media is not going to let that fly. It's like, hey, bro, are you playing here or not? Yes or no?
So we'll see how this ends up shaking out. Thank you very much for joining us here at Prime Sports World. Izzy's going to be doing a Major League Baseball trade deadline episode tomorrow, so keep an eye out for that content. Me and TJ are going to be back here on Thursday doing the New England Patriots season preview. By the way, if you're a New England Patriots fan, you may want to skip that episode because it may not be the most flattering show.
Wow, that's going to be rough.
It's going to be real rough.
It's going to be rough.
It's going to be real rough.
and before we get up out of here, one shout out to Justin Fields, cracked the top 100 players at number 86.
Yeah.
And Couch and Twitter GMs, just so you know, the players vote on the top 100, not coaches, not media. Players, NFL players vote on the top 100.
Man, I used to watch that religiously, but I haven't caught it in the last 2 seasons. But
I haven't either. And so shout out to Justin Fields, and thoughts and prayers to Bronny James. He suffered a cardiac arrest episode while he was working out for USC today. And yesterday. Yesterday or today?
It was yesterday, Monday night, while he was.
Oh yeah. I read that. And you insensitive. I'm gonna try to be like PG. You insensitive sons of talking about it's the vaccine. Like, dude, have some goddamn compassion, please.
I mean, a kid's fighting for his life. He's 18 years old. And the first thing you want to think about is a vaccine. Like,
it's a vaccine. Yeah. Have some goddamn compassion.
It was the same thing when DeMar Hamlin, basically died on the field.
It's the jab. It was the jab. Yeah. Like, get the fuck out of here. Sons of bitches.
It could be a bunch of different issues. Like there's no way to really even know.
Man.
But Thursday we're going to be doing the Patriots. Friday we're going to be talking about the state of running backs in the NFL. That is a very interesting debate and a very interesting conversation that I can't wait to have. But yeah, thanks for checking us out. Please like, share, and subscribe to the podcast. And TJ, what we do here at the Prime, my friend?
We bring the heat, and I cannot wait for that episode Friday because Saquon Barkley did all that talking, and just to sign the deal he got offered, it's just Friday.
We'll talk about it on Friday. But yeah, we'll be back here on Thursday breaking down the New England Patriots. You all have a good night and be safe out there. And if you're in one of those areas where it's supposed to get over 100 degrees, make sure you're staying indoors and don't take your pets out if you don't have to.
Please. And the air quality is going to get bad again. So
yeah, it's supposed to be oppressive and muggy. So if you can stay inside, stay inside.
Please.
Have a good night, man.